RON 95 prize for Malaysian on 30th September. Britain, Australia, Canada and Portugal officially recognise Palestinian state. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Shuhaida Arifin and this is World Today. The price of RON 95 petrol has been reduced to RM1.99 per litre from RM2.05 per litre effective 30th September through targeted subsidies under the Budi Madani RON 95 Budi 95 program. The good news was announced by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim today at his monthly meeting with the staff of the Prime Minister's Department.
Jadi kita putuskan untuk menetapkan kadar RON 95 daripada RM2.05 seliter sekarang kepada RM1.99 bermula pada 30 September tahun 2025. Dan saya juga sebutkan bahawa manfaat dan keistimewaan ini hanya sebagai penghargaan, pengiktirafan semangat dari hari kemerdekaan 31 Ogos, 16 September Hari Malaysia. Jadi penghargaan kepada rakyat Malaysia seluruhnya.
Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also the Finance Minister, said all Malaysian citizens with a valid driving licence are eligible for the RON 95 subsidy. Based on data from the Road Transport Department JPJ and the National Registration Department JPN, it is estimated that more than 16 million people are eligible to receive this subsidy. The Prime Minister also noted that police and military personnel will begin enjoying the RM1.99 per litre price from Saturday as a gesture of appreciation for their services. Similar to the basic Rahmah contribution SARA, no registration is required for Budi 95. Malaysians only need to use their MyCard to enjoy the subsidised price. On a related note, Datuk Seri Anwar announced that savings from the government's targeted subsidy initiative will be reallocated to benefit the people with a focus on education, healthcare and upgrading basic infrastructure.
Sekarang penyerahan subsidi maknanya naik sedikit untuk bukan warga negara, turun bagi rakyat dan tentunya hasil pulangan itu akan kembali kepada rakyat.
The Prime Minister explained that the move to target diesel subsidies, for example, has enabled the government to implement the Sumbangan Asas Rahmah SARA Appreciation Aid Initiative, providing RM100 to eligible Malaysians. He further clarified that the savings from the recently adjusted RON 95 fuel subsidies, which saw a slight increase for non-citizens but a decrease for citizens, will be channeled back to the people. Datuk Seri Anwar expressed hope that the public will accept the government's bold move to implement targeted subsidies, policies enacted for the nation's long-term benefit and development. Britain, Australia, Canada and Portugal on Sunday recognised the state of Palestine, a historic shift in decades of Western foreign policy that drew swift anger from Israel. Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip welcomed the recognition as a victory. London's step aligns it with more than 140 other nations carrying symbolic weight, as Britain played a major role in Israel's creation in the aftermath of World War II and has long been its ally.
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine. We recognized the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognize a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future.
Other countries, including France, are due to follow suit at the annual UN General Assembly opening on Monday in New York. Portugal's Foreign Affairs Minister Paulo Rangel said that the country advocates the two-state solutions as the only path to a just and lasting peace, and a ceasefire is urgent.
O Estado português reconhece oficialmente o Estado da Palestina. Reafirma nesta ocasião o direito do Estado de Israel à existência e as suas efetivas. A declaração de reconhecimento não apaga, todavia, a catástrofe humanitária em curso na faixa de Gaza. O governo português tem repetida e insistentemente condenado as restrições à entrada de ajuda humanitária, a situação de fome gerada, a deslocação forçada de populações na faixa de Gaza.
Israel has come under huge international pressure over its war in Gaza, which has sparked a dire humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian territory. 3/4 of UN members now recognize the state of Palestine, with at least 145 of the 193 member countries having done so. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron said recognition of a Palestinian state would lead to a peace in a video posted on X on Sunday, ahead of France's expected decision to do so at the United Nations this week. Macron said he had not forgotten the victims of the 7th October attacks and the remaining Israeli hostages, nor the many thousands of Palestinians killed and wounded by Israel's offensive on Gaza in retaliation. He said France wanted to see an immediate ceasefire, the release of the remaining hostages, humanitarian aid entering Gaza, and ultimately an Israeli and Palestinian state living alongside each other peacefully. Western governments have been under pressure from many in their parties and populations angry at the ever-rising death toll in Gaza, images of starving children, and their state's inability to reign in Israel, even continuing to provide arms. On the matter, Benjamin Netanyahu said there will be no Palestinian state, accusing the act of recognition made by Western leaders only reward Hamas. Netanyahu said that for years he has prevented a Palestinian state despite domestic and international pressure, and added that he will give his response after he returns from the United States. Netanyahu denounced the push for recognition as absurd, claiming it would endanger Israel's existence. He also vowed on Sunday to expand Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank, which Israel has controlled since 1967, in an occupation considered illegal under international law. On the ground in Gaza, many saw recognition as an affirmation of their existence after nearly 2 years of war between Israel and Hamas.
لهذه الدول أن تخرج من عباءة الاحتلال وأن تقول كلمتها بعد أن شاهدت الدمار والتطهير العرقي والقتل في غزة وفي كل أنحاء قطاع غزة. آن الأوان لها. بريطانيا يجب أن تكفر عن سيئاتها من بعد بلفور حتى الآن، لأنه نحن فلسطينيين نريد أن نعيش مثل بقية شعوب العالم.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas hailed the recognition as an important and necessary step towards achieving a just and lasting peace. Although a largely symbolic move, it puts four countries at odds with the United States and Israel. A growing number of long-time Israeli allies have shifted their long-held position as Israel has intensified its Gaza offensive. United States President Donald Trump said on Sunday that business leaders Lachlan Murdoch, Larry Ellison and Michael Dell would be involved as U.S. investors in a proposed deal to keep TikTok operating in the country. Trump has said the U.S. and China have made progress on a deal requiring TikTok's American assets to be transferred to U.S. owners from China's ByteDance. Murdoch, the CEO of Fox Corp, recently cemented long-term control of his family's media empire that includes Fox News and the Wall Street Journal after settling a years-long legal battle with his siblings. The family patriarchy 94-year-old Rupert Murdoch may also be involved in the deal, Trump said. Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle and major Republican donor, has long been linked to a potential TikTok deal. Dell is the CEO of Dell Technologies. The Trump administration has declined to enforce a U.S. law enacted during the Biden administration requiring TikTok's divestiture over fears that its U.S. user data could be accessed by the Chinese government. Trump has included negotiations over the popular social media app, which counts 170 million U.S. users, as part of wide-ranging economic talks with China. Former South Korea First Lady Kim Kyun-hee, wife of ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol, is set to face trial on stock fraud and bribery charges. The Seoul Central District Court will open proceedings on Wednesday afternoon, marking the first criminal trial of a South Korean First Lady. According to a statement by the court, judges moved directly to a full hearing without preparatory session, underscoring the gravity of the case. Former First Lady Kim is accused of involvement in manipulating stock prices and accepting bribes from the Unification Church, which prosecutors say sought political favors. She, however, has denied any wrongdoings. Her husband, former President Yoon, was impeached earlier this year over corruption allegations, bringing an abrupt end to his administration. Both Yoon and Kim have been arrested and are in jail, with the former president already undergoing trial on charges that include insurrection following his ouster in April over a botched bid to impose martial law in December. Still in South Korea, President Lee Jae-myung said the country's economy would fall into crisis, rivaling its 1997 meltdown if the government accepts current U.S. demands in stalled trade talks without safeguards. Seoul and Washington verbally agreed to a trade deal in July in which the U.S. would lower President Donald Trump's tariffs on South Korean goods in exchange for $350 billion in investment from South Korea. Lee said they have yet to put the agreement to paper because of disputes over how the investments would be handled. In an interview in his office, Lee also spoke about a huge U.S. immigration raid that detained hundreds of Koreans, as well as Seoul's relations with a rival North Korea, neighboring giant China and Russia. However, trade and defense talks with the U.S., South Korea's military ally, and a top economic partner are overshadowing a trip Lee makes from Monday to New York, where he will address the United Nations General Assembly and be the first South Korean president to chair a meeting of the Security Council. Lee has sought to calm the country and its economy and said he plans to use his U.S. visit to tell the world that democratic Korea is back. A North Korean state media on Monday reported its leader Kim Jong-un was open to future talks with the United States if Washington drops its demand that the country gives up its nuclear weapons. Kim also said he had fond memories of President Donald Trump, who he met 3 times before high-profiling summits during Trump's first term. The demand that Kim give up his nuclear arsenal has long been a sticking point between the two countries, with Pyongyang under successive rafts of UN sanctions over its banned weapons programs. Kim said that sanctions had only helped the North in growing stronger, building endurance and resistance that cannot be crushed by any pressure. Since the failed 2019 summit, North Korea has repeatedly said it will never give up its nuclear weapons and declared itself an irreversible nuclear state. Kim reiterated that denuclearization was not an option. Kim also said that he had no reason to sit down with South Korea, even as Seoul's new president Lee Jae-myung has sought to ease tensions with the North. Up next, the violence erupts in Manila and mass rallies against corruption. Stay with us. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a public address on Sunday, asked citizens to stop using foreign-made products and instead use local ones, pushing for a self-reliant campaign when trade ties with the United States have soured. After US President Donald Trump imposed a 50% tariff on imported Indian goods, Modi has been urging use of Swadeshi or Made in India goods.
Best ho. उत्तम से उत्तम हो, हम जो मैन्युफैक्चर करें वो दुनिया में आन बान शान के साथ देश के सारे पैरामीटर को पार करने वाला हो। हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स की क्वालिटी दुनिया में भारत की पहचान बढ़ाए, भारत का गौरव बढ़ाए। हमें इस लक्ष्य को लेकर काम करना है।
His supporters have started campaigns to boycott American brands, including McDonald's, Pepsi and Apple, which are hugely popular in India. India's population of 1.4 billion is a major market for American consumer goods, often purchased from US online retailer Amazon.com. Over the years, the reach of US brands has expanded deep into smaller towns. Modi also asked shopkeepers to focus on retailing made in India products, arguing that this will boost the country's economic growth. Thousands of Brazilians took to the streets in Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo and Brasilia on Sunday to protest a controversial congressional bill that will grant immunity to lawmakers and reduce penalties for those involved in the 8 January 2023 storming of government buildings. The event, dubbed a musical protest, evoked historic anti-dictatorship marches and featured performances by Gilberto Gil and Chico Buarque. The demonstrations, organized by left-wing movements and artists, spread to at least 22 state capitals, including Sao Paulo and Brasilia. Protesters targeted both the so-called Shield Bill, which would make it harder to prosecute lawmakers, and a separate amnesty proposal for those involved in the 2023 attempted coup, including former President Jair Bolsonaro, who was recently sentenced to 27 years in prison for his role in the attempt. Critics argue the measures protect corrupt officials and threaten democracy. The bills, which advanced in Congress last week, have faced overwhelming public opposition, with local reports indicating that 83% of social media posts criticized the immunity bill. Violence erupted in Manila on Sunday during several mass rallies against corruption after protesters were barred by police from marching to the presidential palace. The situation escalated as protesters threw rocks and Molotov cocktails at anti-riot police, requiring security forces to respond by using flashbangs and water cannons to disperse the demonstrators. Dozens of protesters wore masks and carried a flag from the Japanese manga series One Piece, reminiscent of the symbol used during recent violent protests in Indonesia. The Philippine National Police has reported dozens of injuries, mostly from cuts and bruises, and said it has arrested 17 protesters involved in the clash. Earlier on Sunday, tens of thousands of activists and supporters held mass rallies in Manila. The demonstrations, attended by estimated 130,000 people, were the largest held so far in the Philippines over the scandal since Marcos Jr. ordered an investigation into the anomalous projects in July. The protests also coincided with the anniversary of late strongman Ferdinand Marcos Sr.'s declaration of martial law, a period many remember as one of the darkest in the country's history. An accumulation of over 80,000 passengers train trips has been made on the China-Laos Railway, handling more than 59 million passengers trips. According to the latest official data released by the China Railway Kunming Bureau, since the beginning of this year, the China-Laos Railway has seen a total of 14.5 million passenger trips. On 13 April 2023, with the strong support of the relevant department of the Chinese and Lao governments, the international train route from Kunming South in southwest China's Yunnan province to Vientiane, Laos, began operating in both directions. Over the past 2 years, the number of cross-border train trips has increased to 4, making it a popular choice for cross-border travel for both the Chinese and Lao people. China-Laos Railway, a landmark project connecting Kunming in Yunnan with the Lao capital city of Vientiane, began operation on December 3, 2021. This railway is a flagship project linking China's Belt and Road Initiative BRI with Laos's strategy of transforming itself from a landlocked to a land-linked country. The project is actually a section of the Kunming-Singapore Railway project, which connects Kunming with Singapore, passing through Laos, Thailand and Malaysia. In sports, Verstappen claims Baku victory as Piastri crashes. Stay tuned.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan perkhidmatan 5 bintang.
Alright, kicking off our sports segment, Gabriel Martinelli's 93rd minute equaliser saved Arsenal Premier League title bid from a damaging defeat to Manchester City. Arsenal went second, 5 points behind the champions, while City are 8 points off the top in ninth. Arteta's men had not conceded from open play in the first 5 Premier League and Champions League games this season. However, the Gunners were heading to a second defeat in 5 Premier League games due to Erling Haaland's early strike on the counter-attack for City. The Norwegian already has 13 goals for club and country in just 8 games this season. Martinelli came off the bench to score for the second time in a week to salvage a 1-1 draw. Martinelli galloped into Aberechi's ball over the top and looped a fantastic finish over the new signings Gianluigi Donnarumma. Aston Villa remains winless this season after blowing a 1-goal and a man advantage in 1-1 draw at Sunderland. Sunderland defender Reinildo Mandava was shown a red card on 33 minutes for kicking out at Matty Cash. Villa scored the opener when Cash tried his luck from long range. The lead lasted just 8 minutes as Wilson Isidore pounced on Granit Xhaka's header forward for the equaliser. Villa now dropped to the relegation zone after bagging only 3 points from 5 matches. Newcastle are also struggling for goals in the absence of the departed Alexander Isak. Eddie's Howe's men have drawn all 3 of their away games this season. In a game of few chances, Bournemouth left the best effort until stoppage time when Nick Pope saved Justin Kluivert's free kick. A point was enough to edge Bournemouth up to third for a few hours at least. In F1, four-time champion Max Verstappen cruised to victory for Red Bull in Sunday's Azerbaijan Grand Prix after series leader Oscar Piastri crashed on the opening lap. Driving with supreme authority, the Dutchman led from lights to flags to claim the win and spoil McLaren from clinching the constructors' title. Verstappen came home 14.609 seconds clear of Mercedes' George Russell and 19 seconds clear of Carlos Sainz, who scored his first podium and best result since joining Williams from Ferrari this season. Mercedes' teenage rookie Kimi Antonelli put his run of poor outings behind him by finishing fourth ahead of Racing Bull's rookie Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda in the second Red Bull. For Lando Norris, who came home seventh, it was a wasted opportunity to exploit Piastri's rare misfortune. Ferrari's seven-time champion Lewis Hamilton finished eighth ahead of the teammate Charles Leclerc, with Racing Bull's second rookie Isaac Hadjar 10th. In winning, Verstappen completed more laps as race leader this season than Norris and delivered the sixth Grand Slam of pole win and fastest lap in his career. With 255 points, he is now third behind Norris, 229, and leader Piastri on 324. The United States finished the World Championship in styles as Noah Lyles and Melissa Jefferson-Wooden completed memorable individual weeks by helping their country to emphatic goals in both 4x100-meter relays on Sunday. Jefferson-Wooden has now become the second woman to sweep all three sprint titles at one World Athletic Championships. The 24-year-old won the 100 and 200-meter double in Tokyo, helped the United States to a lead at the last exchange, and Sha'Carri Richardson brought the baton home in 41.75 seconds. Jamaica finished second, and Germany came third for bronze. In the men's race, the final track event of what has been a fantastic 9 days of action, USA's Kenny Benderek got a gold to cheer him up after another silver in the 200-meter. But it was Lyles taking the spotlight again as he brought them home in 37.29 for his second gold after he won a fourth successive 200 following his bronze in the 100. Botswana, meanwhile, produced a brilliant performance to win the men's World 4x400 meters relay, edging out the United States and South Africa in a blanket finish to become the first African winners of the event. As rain hammered down, the US led the way at the final changeover. However, Colin Kabinatshipi, the 21-year-old winner of the individual title, ran a fantastic leg to snatch gold in 2 minutes 57.76 seconds. In tennis, a clinical Jasmine Paolini guided Italy to a second consecutive Billie Jean King Cup title with a commanding victory over Jessica Pegula to seal the tie against the United States in Shenzhen, China on Sunday. Paolini went undefeated in singles and doubles this week, wrapping up her faultless campaigns with a 6-4, 6-2 victory against Pegula to hand Italy a 6th BJK Cup triumph. World number 91 Elisabetta Conchiarato kicked off the final with a 6-4, 6-4 upset of the 18th ranked Emma Navarro to hand Italy the opening point in the tie. Conchiarato barely blinked during her 1 hour and 27-minute win over Navarro. The 24-year-old Italian came out with all guns blazing against Navarro on Sunday. She maintained her advantage to grab the first set and came from 2-4 down in the second to secure the point for Italy. All right, and that's it from US this afternoon. A recap of our story. Britain, Australia, Canada and Portugal officially recognized Palestinian state. Do join us again this evening at 8:30 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM and TV1. You can also stream us online on RTM Click's website and mobile app. Till then, I'm Shuhaida Arifin, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Goodbye for now.